pop. When we talk about moving on, people often want to skip to the last part, let it go. They want the release without the reckoning. And pop. They want the freedom without the fire that forges it. But the truth is, you can't let go of what you've never fully faced. And pop. You can't heal what you've never allowed yourself to feel. And that's where it all begins, with the courage to let it hurt. Most of us are afraid of pain. We're conditioned to push it away, to numb it, to distract ourselves until it loses its grip. We scroll through endless feeds, pour ourselves into work, drown our thoughts in business or substances, pop, anything to avoid sitting still with the ache that lives inside us. But when we refuse to let it hurt, what we're really doing is burying something alive. And the thing about burying our pain is that it doesn't go away. It waits for us. Pop. It leaks out in ways we can't control, through anger, through bitterness, through sharp words, and broken trust. And pop. The pain we deny always finds a way to demand attention. Letting it hurt is not about indulging in suffering. It's about honesty. It's about looking at what happened and saying, this mattered. This cut me. This is real. It's giving yourself permission to stop minimizing, to stop pretending, to stop brushing it aside like it's nothing. Pop. Because when something breaks your heart, when someone betrays your trust, when life takes a turn that you never saw coming, it is something. And ignoring that truth doesn't make you stronger. Pop. It makes you disconnected from yourself. There's a vulnerability in saying, I'm not okay. But there's also power in it, and pop. When you choose to let it hurt, you are choosing to be fully human. You are choosing authenticity over armor. And that's not weakness. That's the foundation of resilience. Because here's the thing, pop. Resilience is not built in the absence of pain. It's built in the presence of it. And pop. When we allow ourselves to face what's real without running from it, letting it hurt looks different for everyone. Sometimes it's crying until your body feels empty. Sometimes it's journaling late into the night, pouring out every word you've been afraid to say out loud. Sometimes it's sitting in silence, pop, letting your chest ache without trying to fix it, and pop. Sometimes it's reaching out to someone you trust and admitting that you're not as put together as you look. Whatever form it takes, it's about creating space for the wound to be acknowledged, because only in acknowledgement does the possibility of healing exist. And yes, it's uncomfortable. Sitting with hurt feels raw and terrifying. There's a temptation to skip it, to move on prematurely, to pace positivity over the pain. We hear phrases like, just be grateful. Look on the bright side. Everything happens for a reason. And while those may sound comforting, often they are shortcuts that keep us from doing the deeper work. Gratitude doesn't erase grief. Optimism doesn't cancel out betrayal. Meaning doesn't negate loss. You can be grateful and still devastated. You can be hopeful and still hurting. You can hold both. What's dangerous is when we tell ourselves that pain makes us weak or that it's something to be ashamed of. The truth is the opposite. The willingness to hurt is a sign of strength. It means you are willing to stand face to face with your humanity. Pop. It means you refuse to harden your heart just to protect yourself. It means you understand that brokenness is not the end of the story. Pop. It's the beginning of transformation. Think about it. Every time you've gone through something hard, every heartbreak, every disappointment, every failure, those moments shaped you. They taught you things about yourself that success never could. They stretched your capacity for empathy, for courage, for compassion, and pop. And none of that growth would have been possible if you had shut yourself off from the hurt. Growth doesn't happen in avoidance, and pop. Growth happens when you step into the H and trust that you can survive it. Letting it hurt also teaches you boundaries. And pop, it shows you where your limits are, what you will and will not tolerate, what matters to you deeply. It clarifies your values in a way comfort never will. When you allow yourself to fully feel pain, pop, you start to see more clearly who you are and what you need. That kind of clarity only comes from sitting with the truth, even when the truth burns. And perhaps the most important part of letting it hurt is this: it honors the love, the hope, the dream, or the expectation that was lost. The reason you hurt is because you cared. The reason you feel pain is because something mattered. To deny the hurt is to deny the depth of your own heart. Letting it hurt is, in a way, and pop, letting yourself honor that what you went through was meaningful, even if it ended badly, even if it left scars. And pop, the hurt is evidence that you dared to invest yourself fully in life. So if you are in the middle of something heavy right now, and pop, don't rush past it. Don't let anyone shame you into silencing it. Give yourself the gift of truth. Allow the tears, allow the anger, allow the sadness. Let it hurt. Because when you let it hurt, you are not breaking, you are beginning the work of becoming whole again. Pop, let it hurt. If letting it hurt is the beginning, then choosing to heal is the brave decision to not stay there forever. Pain is inevitable, but staying wounded is a choice. And pop, healing isn't something that just shows up one morning like the sun through your window. Healing is something you decide to step into moment by moment, even when it feels messy and slow. It's an active choice, not a passive waiting game. And pop, you don't heal by pretending nothing happened, and you don't heal by numbing yourself into forgetting. You heal by choosing to turn toward the wound with care over and over again. There's a misconception that time heals all wounds. Time can soften edges, but it doesn't do the work for us if we simply wait for time to fix it. And pop, we might notice that months or even years later, the pain is still sitting where we left it, quietly shaping our thoughts and pop, our relationships, and the way we show up in the world. Healing is not automatic, it's intentional. It's the decision to say, pop, I don't want this pain to define me anymore. It's asking yourself not just, and pop, what happened to me? But what do I want to create from here? Healing requires vulnerability and pop. It means being willing to look at your story without flinching, without covering it up in layers of denial or shame. Pop, it's often uncomfortable because it means confronting the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. The anger we don't want to admit we carry. And pop, the grief we don't want to acknowledge, the guilt we can't seem to release. But when we face those emotions with honesty, we stop giving them power in the dark. Pain thrives in secrecy. Healing happens in the light. And pop. And healing doesn't mean you erase what happened. It doesn't mean you forget. Healing means you change your relationship to the story. And pop, you stop letting it control you. You stop letting it play on a loop in your mind as proof of your unworthiness or your failure. Healing is taking the sharp edge of your pain and sanding it down so it no longer cuts you every time you touch it. The scar may remain pop, but the open wound becomes whole. Sometimes healing requires us to rewrite the narrative we've been telling ourselves. Maybe you've been carrying the belief that what happened to you was your fault, or that it means you'll never be enough, or that you'll always be abandoned. Choosing to heal means interrupting that narrative and asking, is this really true? Or is this just pain talking? Healing gives you the opportunity to speak a different truth over your life, one rooted not in shame, but in compassion. Healing also asks us to practice self-compassion, pop, which for many of us is harder than extending compassion to others. We're good at giving grace outward, but when it comes to ourselves, Where harsh, critical, unforgiving healing challenges that, it invites us to soften toward ourselves, to treat our wounds the way we would treat a loved one's, with gentleness, with patience, with care. That's not weakness. Pop, that's what makes healing possible. Sometimes choosing healing means seeking help. It might mean therapy. Pop. It might mean talking to a trusted friend. It might mean finding a community that reminds you you're not alone. Healing rarely happens in isolation. We need connection. We need people who can sit with us in the dark without trying to fix it. And pop, people who can remind us that what we feel is valid and that we're strong enough to keep going. It takes courage to reach out, but that courage is part of the healing itself. Healing is also slow. There's no fast forward button. It happens in layers. Pop. One day you may feel lighter, and the next day the weight may return unexpectedly. That doesn't mean you're failing. And pop. It means healing is not linear. It's more like a spiral. You revisit the same places, but each time with a little more wisdom. And pop. A little more perspective, a little more strength. The progress is in the return. The fact that you keep showing up for yourself again and again is what creates transformation. And healing often comes with surprising gifts. And pop. The very wound you thought would break you can become the place where compassion grows, where empathy deepens, where wisdom expands. The cracks let the light in. The parts of you that hurt the most can become the parts of you that carry the most love for others. Pop. That doesn't mean the hurt was good or necessary. It means you are powerful enough to create something good from what tried to break you. Pop. Choosing to heal is not choosing to be V. It doesn't mean you deny that the hurt happened, or that people won't hurt you again, or that life will always go the way you hope. Choosing to heal means deciding that your life will not be defined by bitterness. It means refusing to hand your future over to the weight of your past. It means saying, I'm worth the work it takes to put myself back together. So yes, let it hurt, but don't set up camp in the pain. Pop, don't build your identity around your wounds. Choose to heal. Choose it again and again every day if you have to. Pop, because when you choose healing, you are choosing life. Choose to heal. There comes a moment, and pop, after the hurt has been felt and the healing has been chosen, when you realize you are still carrying the weight of what happened. The wound may no longer be open, but you keep holding the memory like a stone in your pocket, turning it over, and pop, pressing into its sharp edges. You carry the story, the resentment, the anger, the shame. You tell yourself you've moved on, yet deep inside, the past still has a grip. And that's where the hardest step comes in, learning to let it go. Letting go is not pretending it never happened. It's not erasing the past or denying the impact it had on you. Pop. It's not about dismissing your pain or excusing the choices of someone who hurt you. Letting go means choosing freedom over fixation. And pop. It's deciding that while the wound shaped you, it does not get to control the rest of your story. It's understanding that the longer you grip it, the longer it grips you. The truth is, holding on feels safer sometimes. The anger feels like armor. The bitterness feels like proof that you won't be fooled again. And pop, even the sadness can feel like connection to what was lost, as if letting go means losing it twice. But what we don't always see is that holding on doesn't protect us. It poisons us. It seeps into our relationships, our joy, our peace. Carrying resentment doesn't punish the person who hurt us. It punishes us. It steals our energy, our hope, pop, our capacity to experience the fullness of life. Letting go is not weakness. It's not surrendering control. It's reclaiming it. Because as long as you are tethered to the past, you're not truly free. You're still living in reaction to what has already happened. You're still letting old pain dictate how much joy you allow yourself to feel today. Letting go is about cutting the cord, setting yourself free, and saying, I will not let this define me any longer. It takes courage to release what has lived inside you for so long. Sometimes we cling to the pain because it has become familiar. We know its weight, we know its shape, and pop, and letting it go feels like stepping into the unknown. Who am I without this story? What will I feel if I stop replaying it? What if letting go means losing a piece of myself? But the truth is, you don't lose yourself by letting go. You find yourself. You create space for new beginnings, new joy, new freedom. Forgiveness often lives inside this work, pop. And forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concepts we face. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning what happened, and pop. It doesn't mean saying it was okay or that you deserved it. Forgiveness means you are refusing to carry the burden any longer. Pop. It's about releasing the grip of resentment, not to free the other person, but to free yourself. Forgiveness is a gift you give your own heart. And sometimes the person you need to forgive is yourself. And pop. Maybe you've been holding on to regret, punishing yourself for choices you made, replaying moments you wish you could change. And pop. Letting go means extending to yourself the same grace you would give anyone else. It's saying, I can't go back and rewrite the past, but I can stop carrying it like a sentence I must serve forever. Letting go doesn't happen overnight. Just like healing, pop. It's a process. Some days you may feel lighter, and other days the weight might creep back in. That's normal. Letting go. A one-time decision, it's a practice. A practice. Each time the memory surfaces, you get to decide again, do I hold this, or do I release it? Do I let it define me, or do I let it pass through me? Over time, the grip loosens. Pop. The past becomes a chapter instead of a cage. What's on the other side of letting go is freedom. Pop. It's waking up without the heaviness pressing against your chest. It's laughing without the shadow of yesterday stealing your joy. And pop. It's being able to look at the scar and see it as part of your story, not the whole story. It's creating space for peace to live where pain once did. And the most beautiful part is this: when you let go, you make room for new life to grow. You clear space for love, for possibility, for connection. And pop, you begin to step into a future that isn't tethered to the past. You discover that freedom isn't in holding tighter, but in releasing. So if you've let it hurt, and if you've chosen to heal, the next act of courage is to unclench your fist, release what no longer serves you, and step forward into the life that's waiting for you. Let it go. Pop. There is something extraordinary that happens once you've allowed yourself to hurt, chosen to heal, and found the courage to let go. And pop. You begin to feel space opening inside you. Space that used to be filled with resentment, shame, or grief. It's in that space that freedom begins to take shape. Moving on isn't just about leaving something behind. It's about stepping into something new. It's about reclaiming your life, your joy, your peace, and your strength. Freedom doesn't mean forgetting the past. It doesn't mean pretending none of it mattered. And pop. It means no longer being held hostage by it. You start to realize that you can carry your scars without carrying the chains. You can remember the pain without being defined by it. You can acknowledge what you've been through while still choosing to write a new story for yourself. That's what stepping into freedom looks like. Not erasing, but transforming. Moving on doesn't mean the absence of struggle. It means you've learned to anchor yourself differently. And pop, where you once anchored yourself in pain or in someone else's approval or in the need to control what you couldn't, now you anchor yourself in courage, in clarity, in resilience. You stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, who do I want to be now that this has happened? That shift is where your power begins to rise and pop. There's a strength that comes from letting go of what tried to break you. The very act of releasing makes room for new confidence and pop, a quieter kind of courage, the kind that isn't loud or showy, but steady and unshakable. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone defined by what happened to you, but as someone who chose to stand and pop, who chose to keep breathing, who chose to keep walking forward when everything in you wanted to stop. That's strength, that's freedom and pop. And freedom also means possibility. When you're no longer carrying the weight of the past, your hands are open to receive what's ahead. New relationships, new dreams, new opportunities, new joy. Moving on isn't about closing the book on your life. It's about turning the page and realizing there are still chapters left to be written. You begin to imagine again. You allow yourself to hope again. You let yourself be surprised by life in ways you thought you were too tired or too wounded to ever feel again. Stepping into freedom also means embracing joy without guilt. Sometimes, after pain, joy feels almost dangerous, like you don't deserve it, like it could vanish at any second. But moving on means giving yourself permission to fully experience joy, to laugh without holding back, to love without bracing for loss, to be present without fear of what might come next. Freedom means you are no longer living in the shadow of what if. You are fully alive in the what is. And here's the truth. Freedom doesn't mean you'll never look back. Memories will come. Old emotions may resurface. But the difference is they no longer have the same hold on you. They may visit, but they don't live inside you anymore. You can look at the scar without reopening the wound. You can remember without reliving. Pop. That is freedom. Stepping into freedom is also about redefining identity. When we've been hurt, it's easy to see ourselves as the sum of our pain, our failures, or our brokenness. But moving on is claiming a deeper truth. You are not what happened to you. You are who you chose to become in the aftermath. You are more than the heartbreak, more than the betrayal, more than the disappointment. You are resilience. You are courage. You are someone who decided not to be defined by pain, but refined by it. Pop, this is the gift of moving on. It's not about leaving the past behind as much as it is about stepping fully into who you are now. Stronger, softer, wiser, freer. And as you walk forward, you carry with you the lessons, the clarity, the compassion, pop, the strength that came from every moment you thought you wouldn't survive. And pop, that becomes part of your freedom too. The knowledge that you can face life, not because it won't hurt again and pop, but because you know you have what it takes to rise again. So when you've let it hurt, when you've chosen to heal, pop. When you've let it go, don't forget the final, most beautiful step to live fully, to step forward with arms open, to allow yourself the gift of freedom that comes when you finally move on. Step into freedom.